So we're just under 3 weeks away now from Call of Duty Next, where we'll see the full multiplayer reveal for Modern Warfare 2, reveals for Warzone 2 and Warzone Mobile, and potentially even more. So in the spirit of getting us ready for all of that we'll be seeing, today I want to continue our sort of recap and everything you need to know series that we've been doing here on the channel, talking about Modern Warfare 2, however you want to describe it. And today I want to take some time to talk about the major gameplay changes expected for the beta and launch, taking a look at some fundamental shifts and differences that we'll see from our experience with Modern Warfare 2019 and Infinity Ward's last outing to what we'll experience here with Modern Warfare 2 upcoming. This information comes from a variety of different locations, from official reports straight from Infinity Ward from our June pre-reveal briefing to other leaks and rumors that we've seen since then. So we'll be covering all these definitive changes as well as some stuff that look to be happening. So as we go along, drop your thoughts below. Do any of these stand out to you? Anything that you're really excited to see change? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts. As well, if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, you'd like to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare 2, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single bit of it. And if you guys would like to get connected a little further, we've been going live over on my Twitch channel about every day, every other day, getting back into the swing of regularly streaming again. So if you guys want to come hang out, chat, tell me how your day's been, talk anything gaming, whatever the case, I'd love to have you over there. That said, let's talk about Modern Warfare 2 and these expected gameplay changes. Let's start out with some of the confirmed items here for these gameplay changes, things that we've had explicitly described for us for Modern Warfare 2 by Infinity Ward themselves. Let's start out with some fundamental things here, some gameplay mechanics. Now, in Modern Warfare 2019, we saw things like mounting, we saw things like sliding, we saw things like tac sprint and all, and for the most part, a lot of what we just mentioned there is actually coming back. Tac sprint is still up in the air. I don't think that's been confirmed just yet, but things like your mounting, things like your sliding will still be there, but we'll also have a handful of other additions to kind of make this a little bit more, not necessarily complex, but more robust in your options, we can say, for how your mechanics will work. We have a handful of different mechanics making their introduction here and reintroduction within Modern Warfare 2, first of which, one of them being the ledge hang mechanic. This ledge hang mechanic is something that will allow you to vertically go up or down while traversing some of the map, and just as the name suggests, you'll be able to hang off of ledges, whether that be maybe the underbelly of a bridge side, maybe it's just something that you can kind of scale a little bit of a wall and hang from there. The details they gave here in regards to this ended up detailing that you can peek on this ledge hang, you can perform platforming moves to get from one location to the other, and you'll be able to use pistols. So the way that I kind of envision this is that it's an expansion upon that sort of peak mechanic that we had on ladders in Modern Warfare 2019. For those that don't remember or didn't really use it at all, you could climb up ladders, and then when you got to the top, you didn't have to completely mount over it and get into the regular gameplay environment again. You could kind of hang there, pull out your pistol, and then look around to see if you'd have to give any returning fire or anything. If it was something that was safe or not, you had the option to take combat on that ladder. So the way that it's described seems like it's going to be the same thing, but more so applicable to other things beyond just a ladder. Another big mechanic making its initial introduction for an Infinity Ward game, but something that is reintroduced across the Call of Duty space, is Dolphin diving. That's going to be something that's a new gameplay mechanic for the Modern Warfare 2019 engine, and something we'll end up seeing that's actually a sort of hybrid system. It was described that we'll have the ability to use both sliding and dolphin diving, and for the most part, it seems like it's going to be bound to the same controls, but more so a matter of pressing versus holding. So let's just say theoretically you press that button, you'll end up initiating a slide. If you hold it, that's when you'll dolphin dive. So this will give you more options in order to either flee or get into a different location, however you want to use these sliding and or dolphin diving mechanics, but it is going to be something that sees the return of the dolphin dive coming back for Modern Warfare 2. Now, additionally, in terms of gameplay mechanics, there is going to be new dynamic vehicle gameplay offered within Modern Warfare 2. We saw vehicles on a larger scale introduced with things like ground war in Modern Warfare 2019, but they were rather linear in design. You had the ability to fly, you ended up having the ability to take them out with explosives, your gunfire, whatever the case, but this time it's going to be a little bit different. You end up having the ability with Modern Warfare 2 to do things like leaning out of windows, climbing on top of rooftops from inside the vehicle, knocking off doors so you end up having more area to shoot out of, or oppositely become more vulnerable if you do that as a risk-reward type of deal. You can blow out vehicle tires. That's something that's actually seen within the Modern Warfare 2 reveal trailer, and as a result, on top of all of this, the vehicles are kind of a living amalgamation of a couple of different gameplay features, meaning that you can also then repair these vehicles when they are damaged versus just seeing them blow up and have to respawn. So this kind of depth, to my knowledge, has not been in Call of Duty, especially in a larger gameplay environment sense. So I'm very curious to see how this will play out if we do see it in the beta, and of course we will see it at launch. During our briefing in June, we saw the mission called Convoy, in which this is basically jumping from vehicle to vehicle, and it looked pretty fluid, it looked pretty well polished, and it definitely was something that seemed like like an interesting take on how we'll approach vehicles that, if carried over into multiplayer, could be rather game-changing. So I'm very curious to see how this will act in a gameplay sense once introduced to the larger scales of multiplayer, but either way, you're going to have dynamic vehicle gameplay within Modern Warfare 2. Now, a transition from gameplay mechanics towards gameplay features now is one thing that is definitely going to be interesting, that being the inclusion of water. For the first time on this new Infinity Ward engine that has encompassed Modern Warfare 2019, Vanguard, as well as now Modern Warfare 2, we'll see water actually be something interactable with a player. Previously, of course, you had these super soldiers that could absolutely take out any enemy, but the moment they touched their toe to water, they died instantaneously. So this is going to be something that completely changes that, and as we'll see with some of the gameplay and map designs for not only just Modern Warfare 2, but also Warzone 2, we'll end up seeing that water is actually embraced here at this, where we're going to have vehicles on water, we're going to have the ability to swim in and out of locations, and they could end up taking up large areas of said maps. Now, in describing how the water play would work to players, both in a campaign, multiplayer, and perhaps even Warzone sense, it was something that did go a little bit more in depth. Things like your bullet velocity would, of course, change drastically once you end up shooting into the water and or out of the water. So if you're in the water and you see somebody on land, it'll end up taking 1 or 2 extra shots to secure that kill, simply because the bullet velocity won't be anywhere near where it would be if it's just shot land to land. Additionally, from what they described, their intention is to make this water interactive, so that if you swim in certain areas, it could end up displacing some of the dirt, make that water murky and dirty, changing the visibility looking in and out of that water. So that brings different combat rules to those engagements, things that definitely change the environment and how you'll experience combat when engaging with that, escaping, evading, or just trying to be stealthy and get around the map. But the inclusion of water being a sort of transition towards gameplay features, now we can kind of take a step back from some of the fundamentals and look at some broader picture things here. Of course, we are going to see ground war introduced within Modern Warfare 2 once again. However, we don't know some specifics here. Ground war isn't necessarily firstly going to be branded as ground war. Right now, we are told they're going to be called battle maps. Whether or not that's something that the battle maps are a part of the ground war umbrella, we don't quite know, or if it will be called battle maps overall. The other big question really comes down to player count. We of course know that Modern Warfare 2019 went up to 32v32 combat, but then we had things like Combined Arms and Black Ops Cold War, which was what, like 12v12 or something like that. And then in Vanguard, we had Blitz, which again had a larger player count compared to Black Ops Cold War, but still did not get up to that 32v32 range. So will we see these player counts lowered, matching Modern Warfare 2019, or potentially even raised above it? We don't quite know at this point, but for those that love that large scale combat, you are going to be seeing it here within Modern Warfare 2 with maps specifically built out for these game modes. Now, whether or not these maps tie in directly with the Spec Ops, DMZ, and Verdansk map that we'll see overall, we don't quite know if it's going to be that sort of situation where ground war maps were pockets of Verdansk and how that continuity kind of flowed together, creating one large world of Modern Warfare 2, but for the time being, we do have that on offer. Next, one of the bigger gameplay features here that we'll be interacting with whenever we set any of our creative class systems is the new and improved Gunsmith, something that we've talked about here and detailed a lot more in depth, so we'll kind of go at a top level here for this. If you guys missed the video, it is up on the channel, and if I can remember, I'll put an annotation on screen here for it if you've missed it at all. But in this, we end up learning a little bit about the base overall Gunsmith, how you can equip your attachments, some customization and progression here, as well as the ability to actually tune specific attachments. Now, the overall Gunsmith itself will see you having the option of attaching 3 attachments, as well as equipping a few weapon parts, which kind of makes it seem like there's less that you can end up including on your build, but also it seems like it's also going to act as more than Modern Warfare 2019. So between that 10 attachments of Vanguard and 5 of Modern Warfare 2019, but you can choose up to 3 attachments of a muzzle, underbarrel, laser, ammunition, optic, and rear grip. But things like your weapon parts, which it seems like you can take all of these, seem to end up including your barrel, magazine, receiver, as well as stock. So you kind of, again, have that hybrid of what you can take, but it's a very much so different and upgraded system compared to Modern Warfare 2018. Now, the progression that goes along with this, we might not see this in the beta, but more so at launch. It seems like you'll be able to unlock variations of those base weapons. So, for example, the M16 is an unlock of the M4. There's an unlock for a variation variation including the 458 SOCOM of the M4. There's the LMG Fight Light variation, the M4's LMG sort of conversion that is also unlocked. So we'll see things like this allow you to have way more in-depth customization and maybe even what's recognized as in-game weapons, as opposed to just those base, but they're unlocked via the base weapons. And when it comes to that final piece of the Gunsmith that was detailed here as an upgrade, is the ability to change and adjust specific attachments. Now, the one thing they detailed was weapon barrels, offering the ability to use sliders in your in-game menu to choose how much recoil control you want, how much ADS speed you want, how much walking movement speed you want, how much aiming stability you want. Things like that, where you can end up changing the variables to go one way or the other, but it will then also adversely affect other attributes of your weapon. Things like your damage, fire rate, range, accuracy, recoil, mobility, and handling were all in the chopping block, and all will be differently adjusted depending on how you tune those weapons in particular. So offering even more depth to the customization system seen in the Gunsmith already. But so far, I think that's a good understanding of some of the gameplay mechanics and changes that we've already seen officially detailed. Let's talk about some rumored and leaked things at this point. One big thing that I'm sure a lot of people are very curious about is the possibility of an FOV slider for consoles. That is something that I will always say absolutely needs to be there, especially whenever we have crossplay on, because as a PC player, that's a definitive advantage. I can see more than those on an 80 FOV on console. So I want that playing field to be level. I want everybody to have that equal chance. And with Vanguard as well as Black Ops Cold War introducing this field of view slider on console the last 2 years, but still it not being there in the Modern Warfare 2019 application, i.e. then transferring over to the Warzone experience, you gotta think that with this prior knowledge, there's gotta be one on the horizon, right? Well, thankfully, right now that is rumored to be the case. Insiders have pointed to the fact that they've heard that an FOV slider is indeed on console for both current gen and, surprisingly, last gen. The big thing that they've always talked about with FOV sliders is that this takes away from the rendering mechanics, and on last gen it would be something that would be hard to implement. So very curious that they're going to be offering it on last gen as well, if that is indeed the case, or if that was just kind of a scapegoat answer as to why they didn't have it. But either way, an FOV slider should be, fingers crossed, coming according to leaks and rumors. And the final thing we'll talk about here in regards to gameplay changes is a rumored feature that may or may not upset quite a few people, that being the fact that movement changes may include the removal of slide canceling. Now, we've talked about this here individually, where Zuma, a former COD pro, now turned streamer and show host, ended up talking about his experience with the game and what he had heard from other professionals that had already played it as well, stating you can't really slide cancel into fights anymore. There's not going to be those quick slides into quick aim type of gunfights. Like, you can slide, but it also seems like the whole slide canceling and whole people doing it over and over again is just not going to work in this game. It seemed like every pro who was trying to come around a corner sliding, you're going to see people doing long slides, because if you do a long slide, you might be able to do something. People might be able to figure out a way to abuse the mechanic. And listen, in terms of what I've seen so far, sliding into a gunfight, probably not your best bet. Just like it wasn't your best bet in Ghosts. Nobody really slide canceled in Ghosts because if you slid into a gunfight, you got smoked. You just ran into an out trigger and couldn't get your gun up in time. When you slide cancel in the new game, your gun stays down, so there's a delay to get your gun back up. So that's a really interesting turn of events here, and is something that seems to be what they wanted to do from the very beginning. I mean, slide canceling, love it or hate it, I use it all the time. I'm sure you do as well. It is something that was a genuinely broken mechanic. It was never meant to be there. It was never meant to break the camera of enemies. It was never meant to reset your tac sprint. That was just something that was there and unfortunately never been able to be fixed in the Modern Warfare 2019 application and beyond through the Warzone integration. So to now see this having a clean slate, being a restart here, it seems like Infinity Ward tackled this and doesn't want to see a repeat of that. So meaning that we might not see that slide cancel, for better or for worse, in Modern Warfare 2. But for the time being, that is where we're at here. I want to talk about some of the big gameplay changes you can expect to see during the beta, as well as then potentially at launch as well, pending no changes between beta and launch. So let me know your thoughts down below. Do you like the sound of these changes to the gameplay experience? Do you not necessarily like some of them? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts below. But if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on the video. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare 2. We've got a lot to talk about, and of course, we're just under 3 weeks away from the full-on reveal, so if you'd like to stay on top of everything, I'd love to have you in the community. That said, thanks so much for watching. I'm Gunsmith Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care, and peace.